Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Anusha Soni. Today on day 17 of the mammoth operation in Uttarkashi, rescue teams are only a few meters away from the 41 labourers who are trapped inside the Silkyara tunnel. The great Himalayan rescue that has made international headlines and will in the next few hours from now see rescue teams pull out the trapped workers out of the tunnel with Chief Minister Dhami, who has stated that work on laying the pipes to rescue the 41 workers is complete. My colleagues reporting from the ground, this has been our top focus here on CNN News 18. A major breakthrough was achieved this afternoon at around 1:10 p.m. as the laying of pipes through the rubble at the Silkyara tunnel was completed after huge efforts ongoing for the last 17 days. Prayers of the family members of the trapped workers and crores of country's citizens are pouring in as the relentless hard work of the rescue agencies reach the final leg. It's a critical and a delicate final leg that we are talking about. At least 12 rat hole mining experts were tasked with horizontal drilling through the final 10 to 12 meter stretch of the debris in the collapsed section of the under construction tunnel on the Char Dham route in Uttarakhand. An alternative drilling approach was adopted after large auger machine became stuck on Friday. In a media briefing just a short while ago, National Disaster Management Authority member Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain said that rescue workers were near a breakthrough and it will take almost 4 to 5 hours for the trapped workers to be pulled out. As a fallout of the Uttarkashi tunnel mishap, the National Highway Authority of India has stressed the need of the order to follow the tunnels by an independent and expert agency. But right now, all eyes on that important rescue operation that has made headlines, and rightly so. It has been a mammoth task for the last few days, and right now we are in the last leg. Everything is on standby, the medical teams, ambulances, everything has been placed on the go just to ensure that when the first set of workers are pulled out, they get the kind of medical help that they need. Our focus here on Plain Speak, our breakthrough on the 17th day, how the mammoth operation has unfolded. We tell you all about the story, everything that has gone into that operation, what's happening right now, and how will the next few hours really look like.
The breakthrough has happened at this very moment as we are speaking, and that is the reason why this entire movement has already started over here.
अभी हम 58 मीटर पे हैं. पाइप पीछे से पुश होता गया है with the help of the auger machine, the pressure of the auger machine, and we are hoping another 2 मीटर तकरीबन लगेगा और अंदर पुश जब होगा तब we could say that आर पार हो गए हैं.
तो खुशी है, तो निकालने के बाद तो फिर और खुशी होगा.
कभी उम्मीद आपने हारा था कि नहीं निकल पाएंगे? ये उम्मीद हरदम कायम था कि वो निकलेंगे?
हाँ जी.
आगे का प्रोसेस देखा जाएगा, पहले निकल जाए, उसके बाद डॉक्टर का जो ट्रीटमेंट है वो होने के बाद ही पता चलेगा ना फिर आगे का क्या प्रोसेस है.
While cutting across to my colleague Anshul, he's been tracking this rescue operation non-stop for the last few hours and for the last 17 days. Anshul, the last few hours, fingers crossed, it's a delicate task at hand. The quick updates, the latest one.
So yes, the latest update is that the final piece of this entire puzzle, that is the last piece of the pipe, has been welded into the pipes, and the pushing operation is underway at this point in time. We are expecting that within an hour's time this operation will come to an end, and post that the team of SDRF and NDRF will go inside at the exact location where these people are stuck, that is 60 meters through that pipe, crawling through that pipe, and post that a ramp will be made. In fact, the ramp has already been made by the NDRF team outside the tunnel is what we are being told at this point in time, and we are just awaiting for that final confirmation to come in from the NHIDCL and their rescue teams that the pipe has reached the other end of the tunnel. Remember, the breakthrough was achieved at the 57 meter mark. Post that, the rescuers wanted that at least 2 to 3 meters of length of the pipe is drilled through towards the other end and opens out towards the other end. That process is happening at this point in time. The auger machine is very slowly pushing that pipe through the debris, because remember, if at all any sort of vibration happens in that debris, then the debris will fall and eventually close the pipe that has been drilled through, and hence the rescuers are not risking it at this point in time, and hence we are expecting that within the next few minutes probably an hour this operation will come to an end, and post that the NDRF, SDRF teams will go inside, and one by one people will be taken out. On the other hand, if you could see behind me as well, the number of ambulances that have gathered over here. These ambulances are all on standby. A makeshift hospital has been made specifically inside the tunnel itself, making sure that whatever first aid needs to be given to these people, that could be given to them at the earliest. So yes, it's just a matter of minutes, probably an hour, before we could break this news of the first person coming out of the tunnel after 17 days, and the first human contact that can be made with them after 17 days. So yes, it's just the next few hours that we are waiting for. But yes, fingers crossed, hopefully the pushing of pipe that is ongoing, that happens successfully, and the 3 to 4 meters pipe that needs to be pushed in, that drills through successfully, and that is when we are expecting this entire operation to be handed over to the NDRF and the SDRF, and then the entire SOPs will follow. The easiest part of the operation will then take place.
Of course, you'll stay with us through the course of the broadcast. But before I go to my guests, one more question that I'd like to take from you. We've spoken about the technicalities of the operation, but you've been stationed there for those last 17 days. You have lived and felt the story. I was hearing your earlier reportage as well, where you pointed out how a small temple, a makeshift temple, has been created there. What has been the human interest story really like? The locals, at one point, they were very disappointed. There were certain protests. But today, when these workers are to be pulled out, we saw a lot of locals cheering. They were happy that finally all these workers will be pulled out. The human side to this great rescue operation.
Well, yes, the locals, since day one, since the day I arrived over, initially a few of the local people that I interacted with told me about a local legend over here, and said that nothing is going to happen before the 26th of November because the gods are angry, as the temple of that god used to happen on top of this mountain, and if this tunnel is built, then people will not go and worship that god, and hence the god is angry, and that is the reason why something like this has happened. And that is the reason why approximately 5 to 6 days ago a makeshift temple was made over here. We saw those visuals of people going inside the temple by praying at that temple, be it General VK Singh, be it the engineers who have been called in, be it the Chief Minister who also prayed at this temple last evening as well. And post that, if you look at the human interest angle, the people were actually very, very concerned, because all these people were the friends and family members of these people, and who actually knew. Also, the Chief Minister, there is movement in the cavalcade of the Chief Minister as well. Right behind me, you are seeing that the Chief Minister is now moving out of the tunnel. We are hoping that he would stop and brief us about the current situation, because there is a lot of clarity that needs to be taken from him. But yes, the cavalcade of the Chief Minister is now moving out of the tunnel side. What is the reason behind this? That is something that remains to be seen. We'll try to find that out in the next few minutes. So the Chief Minister is now going down to the Pota cabins, where the meetings generally happen. He has not moved out of the site. He has in fact gone inside the place where the high-level meetings and the hectic parleys happen out here on the tunnel side. So yes, we are hoping for that good information, for that good news to come through anytime now. It is just a matter of minutes, probably 1 hour, that we will be able to bring this report to our viewers that the first person has finally been taken out of the tunnel after 17 days.
Absolutely, Anshul. I'm waiting to hear that from you. As the breaking story, first here on CNN News 18. Please stay with us on the broadcast. I'll quickly introduce our guests as well who are joining us on the broadcast. We have Mr. Alok Bilal, who's a former DGP of Uttarakhand. He's joining us on the show. We also have Brigadier Vinod Datta, who's the former senior consultant at NIDM. Mr. Vimlendhu Jha, who's an environmentalist, is also joining us on the broadcast. And Arya Ghosh, who's a national safety, security and aviation analyst, is also with us on the show. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Brigadier Datta, first I'd like to come to you, sir. What a mammoth operation this has been. 17 days it has taken for us, but everybody is safe. None of the rescue workers so far have been hurt, and God forbid that happens. But how big of a task has been done or is yet to be achieved? Of course, we are yet to have the first worker pulled out, but to be able to make through the breakthroughs that have been achieved so far is no lesser of an accomplishment.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and let me congratulate everybody, on nearing this completion of this operation. And it has been a very, very mammoth and huge operation, which is nearing a completion because of the coordination of the various agencies, whether they were central agencies or the state agencies. Now, tunnel operations are not very easy, to conduct or to, venture in, because what happens is the approaches are very, very limited. Like other, disaster-like situations where you have many approaches. You have 360-degree opportunities that you can approach the ground zero from any angle. Here, the approaches are limited. The human lives are involved, and you do not know that how the soil is going to behave. And, these tunnel operations are quite unpredictable. So it has been a really very, very big operation. And with the perseverance of the administration, the security agencies, and the armed forces, we have been able to, achieve great amount of success. And these operations, they are time consuming. And because you cannot go totally gung-ho on any kind of, like, two options were taken, vertical as well as horizontal approach was taken. And since the vertical approach had some, challenges, so they switched over to this mine excavators who have been pressed into service. And it is rightly said, एक हिंदी में कहावत है जिसे कहते हैं ना कि जहां काम आवे सुई कहां करे तलवार. So today these mine excavators have really, proved that yes, they can make the difference, and they have done it.
But Brigadier Datta, I'm also very happy with the fact that the authorities could make that distinction and could exercise that discretion. Most of the experts we have spoken to here on CNN News 18 have pointed out how there was no knee-jerk reaction from the authorities and a very well-sustained, planned, strategized manner in which the state and the central government coordinated multiple agencies, about 8 to 9 of them, working in close coordination with each other. Mr. Alok Bilal, coming to you, sir. The state and centre have coordinated very, very closely as far as this particular operation is concerned. No state government would have been able to do this by itself. The kind of technology that has been pushed in, the kind of support that they have got from the local administration, without this multi-layered coordination, this operation couldn't have been a success. It is yet to achieve its last milestone, but hopefully we are just still there, very, very close.
First of all, I must say that I'm so happy that we are so close to a good news. Having said this, yes, coordination is a very important aspect of such rescue operations, especially where two governments are involved, the central as well as the state government. And I'm glad that soon enough after the disaster struck, it was decided that it will be the government of India who will be having the wherewithal to deal with a huge situation like this. And also because the tunnel is being made by Government of India, it was only right that they should have taken the responsibility of coordination. Because the initial meetings were held under the chairmanship of the local district magistrate. Now some of the officers who came from Government of India were far senior to this district magistrate in their recruitment years. So it was felt that perhaps a senior officer from Government of India would be the ideal person to coordinate. So my feeling is that we could have had, some kind of an escape tunnel even before such a huge tunnel was being constructed. I think in all such cases where you are dealing with the Himalayas, which are very fragile, so when you make a long tunnel like this one, you must also have the escape standard operation procedure in place.
Right.
This SOP possibly was not there. And therefore, when it started happening, everybody was at wit's end what to do and how to go about it. So my own feeling is that escape tunnels could be thought of, and they should have been made. And in all such, if we can take a lesson from this, in all such projects in future, we should have this. And secondly, we should be prepared for such disasters in the Himalayas, because Himalayas are friable. We all know it's a young mountain.
And the manner in which, sir, the kind of infrastructure creation which is happening in Himachal and in Uttarakhand, safety measures after this accident could be reviewed, once again looked at. On that note, Mr. Vimlendu Jha, bringing you into the discussion. There's been much chatter and discussion about we need to rethink, we need to recalibrate. I don't think anybody is against creating infrastructure, better connectivity, better developed states. But to have the right kind of balance between development and ecology, especially in a state like Uttarakhand, where the mountains are porous, it's a sensitive ecology that you're dealing with. Those concerns need to be taken into account. Is it time that perhaps our planning and our methods need to be relooked once again? And in your understanding, are authorities really sensitized to this?
See, no doubt we need to celebrate and congratulate the effort put together by the rescue operations, as in the central government and the state government. But I think this tunnel collapse and this rescue operation, the number of days, 17 days that it's taken, should ideally wake us up and wake up the government to really re-look at the kind of infrastructure that we're trying to build. As in, Himalayas is not your Lajpat Nagar or Bombay, where you are actually digging a tunnel. As in, every study that has actually taken place in last several decades clearly talk about the kind of tunneling activity, the kind of infrastructure development that we are actually building in the Himalayas is unscientific. It doesn't take into consideration the geology and the geography of the area. As in, we need to not just look at how did whether we have been able to rescue these 41 people or not. The fact that why did that tunnel collapse? Was there enough thinking, enough study? And the reality is that there was not. As an environmental impact assessment of this project was bypassed. And in 2019, when the Supreme Court was hearing this case, in the name of national security, of course, everybody wants quicker mobility and broader roads. But do we want broader roads in Himalayas that don't have the carrying capacity? And therefore, rather than actually looking at last 17 days, the entire country and all of media only talking about rescue operations, nobody's asking that critical question that why are we plundering the Himalayas? As in 2023, we have actually seen the kind of disaster that has taken place in Himachal. We've seen the kind of disaster that's happened in Sikkim. We've seen Uttarakhand. So should we will this tunnel function? Because there are 66 similar tunnels and infrastructure projects that's actually going on. It's a 900-kilometer road that we're trying to build. But, when our convenience becomes so arrogant that we don't really look at the carrying capacity and the ecological sensitivity of the Himalayas, this is what is happening. And by the way, it is not just about the soil movement or in terms of tunnel collapse. The rivers are suffering. 600 hectares of forest has actually been cut to build this 12-meter road that we're talking about. So, it's really, really unfortunate, and hope this is a wake-up call. Hope the government realizes that it cannot draw a road on the map of Himalayas the way it actually makes a map in Delhi or in any other urban area.
Arya Ghosh, coming to you, do you think that the rest of the tunnels which are yet to be created in this entire project, there needs to be a rethinking as to why this really happened? And I'm sure the authorities will look into this. At the end of the day, if these level of rescue operations are to be done, it is the expense, it is the effort of the government that really goes into it. There's accountability that is sought from the politicians and from the elected leaders. But the other projects which are a part of this mammoth infrastructure project, should they be really looked into?
100% in agreement with you. And as my senior and learned co-panelists have already pointed it out. See, there are 4 types of tunnels that we come across. One is basically which is built in the rocks, and then you have tunnels which you build on soft grounds, and then you have tunnels built underground and underwater. So, keeping in mind the tectonic plate movements in the Himalayan region, we should have made an exception, in my humble appreciation, in this case, as we build a head shield in case of building a tunnel on the soft grounds. That kind of reinforcement should have been considered, in my humble opinion, and which I believe was not that. Wasn't present, or the reinforcement at the top of the tunnel was not that strong. And the second thing is we are looking at the 41 lives, irreplaceable lives right now. But also spare a thought about an army convoy which could have passed through that tunnel once completely built, loaded with logistics, and what would have happened if there was a tunnel collapse. And the other thing is escape tunnel. That is a very kind of vital factor we should have considered at the beginning. Before working on the main tunnel, the escape tunnel should have been built for this emergency situation. I mean, meeting this emergency situation wherein the workers that are now stuck could have been brought up. So that should have been kept in mind as well. And also there is, now they are building this escape tunnel, which is basically will be perpendicular to the Silkyara end, which is about in length 180 meters. That is being built now, but why now? So, and hats off to the rat miners. I have personally had a discussion with the NDRF headquarters and the officials at the tunnel site, and I've conveyed my suggestions, what I wish to, and I'm happy to experience that what I've suggested on that time they're also working, and also I have suggested that from the Barkot side, since there is no debris on the Barkot side, there should have been an effort earlier made to reach the workers.
Mr. Alok Lal, coming to the point of that this should not happen again in the future, and we are still counting down. When the first worker is really pulled out of that tunnel, it's in the last phase that pipe has been inserted. There's a welding process that will go on, and then via stretchers, one worker after another will be pulled out. It needs to be done very, very carefully. The Chief Minister was at the spot. His entourage just has left the spot right now. They've gone down for a couple of meetings, as my colleague was pointing out. NDRF teams are on standby. The ambulance is on a standby. This operation will continue to go on till about midnight. So we don't know how long this may take. These are the last few hours, that's all we know. But at no point the authorities have indicated that they're going to rush through the process. The fact that the last leg had to be done through rat miners points out that how the machines, technology, despite the best available technology, had failed to cut through the last leg of debris which was lying there. Mr. Lal, coming to the point of why the rat miners had to be used, there was an American auger machine that broke down multiple times. It was replaced. Then parts of the machine got stuck into the debris. And then finally the rat miners had to be used. Talking about the peculiar geology or the geographical conditions, the terrain that exists in the Himalayas, the heavily porous nature of the mountains, how difficult was this operation to bring it to this point of near completion?
Well, I have had a word with a geologist friend of mine who was on the spot and has deep knowledge of this area. And she told me that this is a particularly fragile zone, and there are faults which have taken place a long time ago and which have caused the rocks to splinter, and anybody who touches them will be disturbing the entire balance. It's like the apple cart being dislodged. It's like that. So any action that is to be taken is to be very careful. Now, one of the SDRF officers told me that one of the things that happens is, apart from those who are called VIPs and VIPs who are actually visiting because they have a functional input to bring in there, it's fine. But other VIPs who want to use this as a photo opportunity should not come. The Chief Minister, of course, is the Chief Executive and he has to go and supervise things. But apart from that, many others who visit and therefore disturb the action which is going on. One of the reasons why one of the machines was wrongly used, I'm told, at the site was for this reason, that when a particular VIP was there, the people who were operating that machine wanted to show to the minister that how effective it is. And so there was a wrong operation also. So what I'm trying to say is that all these things have got to be taken in a manner that shows maturity and not childishness, as was shown in some cases here also.
Okay.
So dealing with Himalayas means that you have to deal with a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Mr. Vimlendu Jha, I take your point very seriously, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about why this has happened. We must talk about why this has happened, because that conversation will lead us to a point where we'll be able to make more, informed decisions and raise more awareness about these critical infrastructure projects which are going on. Massive money which is being invested by the government of the day, and perhaps responsible decisions which are made. But one of the arguments that I've heard often is that these kind of projects, especially in the hilly terrain of Uttarakhand and Himachal, would be risky projects like they are in the northeast of the country. We cannot paralyze the administration and the authority by not creating them. And of course, with each untoward incident like these, the authorities will find a better way. I'm not saying that they should happen, but perhaps the difficulties should not deter us from having infrastructure creation in the first place. That's the larger point that I'm trying to make. Mr. Jha.
Yeah, absolutely, Anusha. So ideally, it would be very good if I'm able to lift 500 kilos of weight when I go for a workout. Ideally, right? But I need to have the carrying capacity. Ideally, yes, we need a broader road. But if in the process of broadening that road, or in the process of actually creating that critical infrastructure, if you're actually destroying the Himalayas itself, if you're actually destroying the water bodies, by the way, we are talking about two of the prominent rivers. They originate from that area, and this entire road project, 900-kilometer road project that we're talking about, is in Yamunotri, Kedarnath, Gangotri, all these areas. Indeed, I'm not saying that the villagers there, as in there were earlier 600 human settlements in Uttarakhand, they all need better infrastructure, they need better roads.
Yeah.
But they also need to understand that does the Himalayas have the capacity to carry those roads? Just because people sitting in Delhi, the planners and the engineers of Delhi, imagine what the previous speaker said, that the geologist told, has been warning us that the soil is very, very, very fragile. It's also around the plates. We talk about the rock formation. We are also talking about growing Himalayas. When we are aware of all of this, why would you even undertake a project? This is a disastrous project from the start itself. And this is criminal negligence in governance that we're talking about. So let's not brush this aside by saying, oh, well, India needs infrastructure. But India doesn't need mindless infrastructure. Himalayas need infrastructure. But imagine you build an infrastructure and you flood the entire Himachal Pradesh, and look at what we ended up doing in Himachal Pradesh, and the visuals that your channel and you were showing a couple of months ago, where everything was washed out. We've looked at what happened in 2013 in terms of Kedarnath, the disaster that happened. So indeed, we want a brighter and a bigger and a broader road, but if it gets washed away, or if it sinks, if our Himalayas collapse, that has the impact not just on the Himalayas, by the way. The impact of Himalayan ecology, or the plundering of Himalayan ecology, is going to be on the entire North India, or in the entire country, in terms of air, in terms of water, in terms of every form of our life in that sense. And that's the reason why we actually have government bodies. That's the reason why there's a law called environmental impact assessment.
Absolutely.
Imagine
There's a reason why environmental laws exist in the country. I'm not disputing the need for the environment impact study, which is the law of the land, and you're right, under various provisions of the Indian law, under the Constitution, environment impact assessment study is very, very important. I'll take that point forward with Professor C.S. Dubey, who's also joining us on the broadcast. He's a geologist. Professor Dubey, good evening. Good to have you on the show, sir. We've been talking about this, mammoth rescue operation, which is in the last stages of completion. And we also have Mr. Vimlendu Jha with us on the broadcast and other experts, talking about the viability of the projects and how exactly in the times to come we can ensure that incidents like these do not happen. Would you agree with that broad stroke argument that it's completely unfeasible to carry out projects of this nature in Uttarakhand, in that hilly region?
The project started in 2018, as if I could see in the reports, and by 2024, you have to finish it. But the problem is that when you do such kind of projects, you have to see a few things. The most important thing is that it looks like, when I saw it through the Google Maps and through the Google Earth Pro, I could see that it looks like an old landslide area. and you are making a tunnel at the toe of the landslide area where the debris has been accumulated already, besides the fragile rocks, Now, in such cases, generally what they do is they see the top layer of the things, that whether it's not an old landslide, it's not a slipping area, what are the slopes of the area, they all check it. But surprisingly, in this case, it looks like that there are some small flaws which have been not taken into consideration by the geologists as such, or the geotechnicals. And generally, in these kind of tunnels, we have to be very careful. Generally, when we make these kind of tunnels, we try to align them in a shortest route direction. We don't see the rocks which are there, and the dips of the rock, and the fractures of the rock, the faults of the rocks, the joints of the rocks. We don't care. And most important is the drainage pattern there. Now, unless we see all these things, it is there. It is bound to be there. I feel like that they might have done it, but they couldn't anticipate the debris and the boulders which are there, and within the debris, it's a old landslide. They couldn't consider that, and I think that could have been one fall. I have not seen the area as such, but actually the rocks there are Berinac quartzites and phyllites and schists are there, generally belonging to close to below the main central thrust area. So it is a very fragile area. Everybody knows that the lesser Himalayas below the MCT thrust and close to the MCT, which is a very active tectonic zone.
If everybody knows that this is a very fragile area, and whatever details of the project are in the public domain, in your understanding, were the due precautions taken? Because some of the experts also pointed out that we need to create an escape route tunnel in case something wrong happens, and you pointed out that this area is known and is prone to landslides even in the past.
Well, when I saw the project itself, I could anticipate that there were some places where they have made the escape routes. It is bound to be there, and there should be a parallel tunnel which should have those kind of routes. Whereby escape routes, the small tunnels from which you can come out if there is a problem. Generally, in all tunnels, it is a mandatory thing to make. I don't understand that. Was generally the safety is first, and then you go ahead. I'm not sure about what has happened over here.
Okay, not sure about what exactly has happened here. On that note, I'll bring in Mr. Arya Ghosh into the discussion. Mr. Ghosh, the safety measures and the security measures which are taken usually in an operation of this nature, I'll just come to that. But I want to once again focus and zoom in on the rescue operations which are underway right now. One argument that I've heard from the people who are working on the ground, these are international experts who have been roped in by the government, that it's good that it took this time. The fact that we were able to establish communication, the fact that they could be catered with basic hygiene products, basic food, survival, and then you can slowly and steadily try and reach out to them, is an example how the governments can take a cautious approach. The other side of the argument is that there have been some glitches, some wrong decisions that have been taken, and perhaps that's why it has taken so long. In hindsight, how do you see this rescue operation? Could it have taken shorter, or perhaps the approach that was adopted by the authorities was the right way to go forward?
Very good question. It is a very good question indeed, because yes, I think on the similar lines that you need to. We had the option of creating a better kind of rescue mechanism. In the sense, first of all, we need to look at it in this way that we have the DG NDRF there, and with loads of experience, and then we have Mr. Arnold Dix, and was the president of the International Tunneling Underground Space Association based in Geneva. And then we have a micro-tunneling expert, Mr. Chris Cooper, who has been also brought in. So since there's no dearth in learning more, I would request the concerned authorities, like the government of India, and to the concerned authorities to send us, a dedicated team for further learning, because burning railways in Switzerland could be a example. there are about 67 tunnels, I guess, it passes through, and in adverse situations, during adverse situations, the movement of the the trains, don't stop. So that is an example for them to follow as to how they have built up the tunnels along the Bernina railway track. And the other thing is, there should have been a mechanism wherein a wagon-like vehicle should have been placed that could take the load of the debris falling from up, so that and that should move. That should have moved in the along with the workers and in close proximity, so that whenever the workers inside going forward in future, whenever the workers feel or experience that the debris start falling, then they can get inside that wagon-like vehicle, wherein that should be equipped with enough oxygen and foods and etc. The medical kits, etc.
Yeah.
And also, you must remember, a very important thing is that human feces is a biohazard. I mean, urine is not that kind of a biohazard as human feces is. So the food that is being supplied to the workers should be specially made, and we should ensure that the place where the workers are trapped are absolutely hygienic and clean. And also that is something also applies when pulling up the workers.
Okay.
Because it is you have to keep the count the last man, and take him into account. Absolutely. Because you don't know, because physically, the dimensions physically would differ, and then you have to make that passage in such a way that the healthiest person should be able to come out, as well as the other persons.
Absolutely. So, Brigadier Datta, I'm coming back to the point of having some kind of backup rescue plan, or taking lessons from what really has happened. In the history of disaster management, different disasters that this country has seen, including battling a pandemic that we efficiently battled in this country with our own set of lessons. In terms of a cave rescue operation or a tunnel rescue operation, I think what has happened in the last 17 days is unprecedented. Also, the kind of infrastructure which is being created in states like Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, and the speed with which projects are being undertaken in the hilly region of the northeast of the country or in Himachal or Uttarakhand, it's unprecedented. In pace with that infrastructure creation, do we have backup plans? Are we ready for instances like these? Because as a country, if you're building infrastructure with that speed and capacity, then you also need to have the rescue and relief operations or an SOP, God forbid, if something of this nature happens.
I agree with you, and a very pertinent question has been raised by you. You see, what happens is there's David Harvey's report which says that there is something which is called land potential. Now, the land potential has been overstretched, and I agree with Vimlendu when he is talking about the environment impact assessment. Yes, definitely, I'm for development. Infrastructure has to be made, but we are not able to carry out any kind of assessment. We generally don't have any kind of vision which goes beyond what we can see. And it has happened sometimes, you see, and most of the time I've seen that we overpromise and underdeliver. And this is what has happened. I was reading a report which was telling that the escape tunnels in this particular case, they have been glossed over. Similar thing, like, if you see what Himachal had witnessed the same thing. I had supervised one tunnel operation in Himachal but I must appreciate that the young district magistrate, she was a lady IAS officer, and she did a commendable job. So what I want to tell you is that unless, we have these policies, advisories and all, unless we execute them, unless we hold people accountable for this, and, such incidents will be repeated. So what is the need of is that the analysis, the reports, the experts, generally whatever they are telling, they should be taken seriously. Because, the kind of infrastructure growth which we are seeing, it is like a ginger, kind of growth. वो अदरक की तरह सब जगह हम फैल रहे हैं without realizing that what is the land potential What all can we build? What blastings, that impact will be there. So these kind of, projects, they should be taken seriously, and the subject, the domain expert people should be taken on account. Like, you see, the kind of regulated, the tourist inflow in Uttarakhand and such like
that
places
needs
should
to be
done.
controlled. Yeah, that needs to
Yeah,
be
it
controlled. I'm all
needs
for
to be
that, sir.
controlled.
I agree with you
Yeah.
because hills have a limited capacity, and the manner in which the urban crowds go to Uttarakhand, to Himachal Pradesh, the kind of burden it's putting on the hills and at the Himalayas, it's something that the ecology is not able to really take, and the pollution that we're witnessing there of different kinds. Whether environment impact assessment study has become merely a formality across major corporate projects, across major infrastructure projects, or is this statutory requirement really taken seriously in this country? We'll talk about this aspect of this particular debate. Our focus on the last 2 meters which are left, the tunneling, the debris has been clear, the pipe has been inserted, the entire welding operations need to be done. We keep our focus on this big story here on Plain Speak right now, slipping into a very short break. Stay tuned.
Hello, Moto.
Big semi-final before Mega 2024 fight. 5 states, 679 seats up for grabs. Direct Congress versus BJP fight in 3 states. In 2 states, regional satraps eye dominance. BJP's heavyweights in battlefield. Congress's confidence on test. CNN News 18. Your trusted elections destination.
Ой, صندوق كمبيوتر. يقعد تشتغل على الشغل. Ой, صندوق كمبيوتر. يقعد تشتغل على الشغل. تشتغل على الشغل.
So yes, just the last few meters to go. The countdown has begun, and the visuals that you are seeing on your screens right now is of the SDRF team that has now been called inside. They are taking these beds that they have made. These are the stretchers that they have made, and it is being taken inside now. Finally, after the wait of 17 days, the SDRF and NDRF have sprung into action. The makeshift stairs that they had made, which needs to be taken from inside the tunnel, so that people could actually climb on that and then get inside the pipe. Everything is in readiness. Just the last few meters to go. 55.3 meters have been reached. 57 is the breakthrough point. Remember the last time the food pipe that was sent, that was of 57 meters, and now 53 meters have 55.3 meters have been reached. The ambulances have now started going in as well. The ambulances are slowly now going in as well. We are getting these visuals to you. We are getting these visuals to you of how the entire operation is almost in its last stages at this. So what we are being told at this point in time, that the pipe has almost reached the breakthrough point. The pipe has almost reached the breakthrough point. This is what we can tell to our viewers. And within just the next few minutes, we are expecting that breakthrough will happen now. Everything is in readiness. The ambulance have reached over here. The SDRF teams are inside. The NDRF is on standby. Everything is now over. The last few minutes that we are waiting for, In fact, the pipe has just reached the breakthrough point, and within the next few minutes, that breakthrough is going to happen within the next few minutes itself. So yes, you can imagine how crucial these next few minutes are. Everything is in readiness. The teams are going in. You can also see these SDRF and NDRF teams. These are in white collars, white dresses. They have also started going inside now. So yes, this is the big update that we are being told. In fact, the army is also now going inside. Remember, the army was called in for the engineering purposes of that rat hole mining that was happening, and now the sappers are also going in. The team battalion of sappers is also Madras sappers is also going in.
Yes.
The third ambulance is also in its way inside the tunnel. So yes, we are just waiting for that last few minutes. The pipe has almost reached the breakthrough point, is what we are being told. And within the next few minutes, officially, the officials will come on record and say this. But yes, what sources have confirmed to CNN News 18 at this point in time, that we have reached the breakthrough point, and it is just the last few meters, not even meters, it is the last few inches that needs to be drilled through manually.
Yes.
Post that breakthrough will happen, and once that breakthrough will happen, what is the process forward? The pipes are being welded, and these pipes will be pushed in, and once this pushing in process happens, we can officially tell our viewers that finally this entire operation would come to an end, where the breakthrough will happen and the pipe would reach at least 3 meters inside the location where these people are stuck. So yes, everything is in readiness. The 4th ambulance has also been called in. The ambulances, one after the other. Remember, 41 ambulances have been prepared over here. One after the other, these ambulances are going inside. So yes, we are just expecting that the breakthrough will happen, and post that it'll take some time for the pipe to be pushed through, and then another 2 hours for all these people to come out. Everything is in readiness, everything is prepared, and probably the time that we were waiting for is about to become a reality. May Mother Nature be kind, and may this operation be successful in the next few minutes. Anshul, as you were pointing out, international experts will tell you that by the sheer number of days it has taken, it is one of the longest rescue operation when it comes to a cave rescue or a tunnel rescue of this nature. The Thai cave rescue that we saw a couple of years ago, the German rescue operation of 2014, the kind of technology, patience and perseverance that this operation particularly tested of the authorities is something that will be an example for the times to come. Fortunately, there was no knee-jerk reaction. None of the rescuers so far have been hurt in this operation, which is usually the case in rescue operation, which has happened earlier as well. If you look at most of the rescue operations that have gone on, 41 workers who are trapped inside for about 16 to 17 days there. We've been counting down. There was an American auger machine that was called in. The machine could drill through a huge part of that tunnel, but at the last minute... Welcome back, and we continue to keep our focus on that mammoth rescue operation which is underway in Uttarkashi. We're just few meters away from the 41 workers who are trapped there inside that tunnel for about 17 days. Multiple agencies and authorities have worked together. We continue to get you all the expert voices. A quick wrap of the story so far. What exactly has happened? What has this rescue operation really looked like? Let's have a look at that. Now, these 41 laborers, they have been trapped at the Silkyara tunnel after a landslide that happened on the 12th of November. On the 13th of November, Chief Minister Dhami, he visited the tunnel site, established contact with the workers via oxygen pipe. It was ensured that all these workers remain safe. That was the biggest concern. 800 to 900 millimeters of steel pipes were brought in. Essentials were supplied in. The authorities sensed very, very early that this is going to be a long drawn operation, and it's going to be something for which the authorities need to be prepared. The operation was halted on the 17th of November as the 5th pipe hit an obstacle. The auger machine from Indore was brought in. It was anticipated that this auger machine would be the deal breaker. To a certain extent, it did aid the operation as well. Prime Minister Modi came in and he was in constant touch with the Chief Minister. He was briefed about the rescue operations. It was assured that all sort of help from the authorities, whether centre, state, whichever work needs to be done, will be brought in.
The first video of the trapped workers was released when the pipe could go all in. Then there were smaller cameras and other stuff that was sent in. Of course, the first supply of hot meals was also done to all these workers. The horizontal drilling process, about 45 meters, it was halted due to the iron rods on the 22nd of November. And on the 23rd, these iron obstructions were removed. Drilling was halted once again due to cracks that were emerging. There was a fear that a bigger chunk of debris could fall and hinder the rescue operation. Debris falling consistently was one of the biggest problems in this operation. The auger machine bursts on the 25th. Vertical and manual drilling is being considered. This was the last few meters that were left. The rescuers start drilling from the hill above the tunnel. They reach about 19.5. And also it was anticipated at one point that perhaps vertical drilling can be tried. That was aborted. Rat hole mining, a procedure known in the hills of Meghalaya, in the Garo Khasi and Jaintia hills, and more importantly in those hills, the NGT in fact had put a ban. But this particular age-old conventional technique proved to be a deal breaker. The micro-tunneling expert reports successful drilling and additional pipes were added for rescue. The last few meters was actually manual drilling. Rat hole mining, a complex series of different operations and techniques that were used. How was it that we could achieve this breakthrough, whatever has been achieved so far, and what lies next? We tell you. There's a team of doctors, ambulances on standby which have been there since the day, ever since that first breakthrough was made at around 1 p.m. today. The moment first set of workers are brought out on those stretchers, they'll be given the medical aid. And the state also reached out to the relatives of the labourers. Some of them needed help in travelling to Uttarakhand. That was accorded to them. All the relatives are stationed there near the Uttarkashi rescue site. They've been told that the next 24 hours are going to be very critical. They've been told that they should be ready with their bags packed. They've been asked to be prepared once rescued to be taken to a nearby hospital. Special stretch of road has been created. It has been ensured that no patch of road that leads to the hospital from the tunnel is broken. Also, there's a special hospital on standby to receive them. God forbid if there's a situation that arises, because pulling them out through that horizontal tunnel is going to be a very delicate task. Those are the set of issues that need to be considered when they come out. When all else failed, what exactly was done? This rat hole mining and the manner in which it has been used is an example for the rest of the world. This rat hole mining technique involved experts to be brought in from different parts of the country. About 24 of such experts were brought in. 2 teams who are taking turns to drill manually, because these are human beings which are literally using human effort to drill through, are being brought in. And there are specialists inside with about 800 mm pipeline to remove the debris. This debris needs to be removed. Even parts of auger machine were stuck at certain places. Shovel and other special tools have been used so far, whatever is used in the conventional rat mining technique. For oxygen, there are teams which are taking turn. It is being ensured that habitable conditions, hygienic conditions are maintained inside that 1 kilometer area. Unfortunately, it's not a closed space where all the workers are trapped. This method was banned for being unscientific. More importantly, it violates some basic human rights. And that is why you had the National Green Tribunal, which had banned this kind of mining in the hill state of Meghalaya. But this particular technique, when used properly and with abundant caution, proved to be a deal breaker as far as this particular operation is concerned. We are in the last leg of this particular operation, just about 2 meters which are left, and we also talk about what will happen in the time to come. Once again, we talk about the Great Himalayan Rescue Operation, how this operation has unfolded. Our focus on Plain Speak.
Hello, Moto.
All right, the last few minutes on the show, Professor Vimlendu Jha, you spoke about the Environment Impact Assessment Study and how this particular statutory requirement has been overlooked. We have had other experts on the broadcast who have pointed out that we need to talk about these environment impact assessment studies, and there's an intricate balance that needs to be struck between infrastructure creation vis-a-vis the environmental concerns. I'm talking particularly about this project and this stretch of project that you've been talking about. There are various red flags. At this stage, is there something that the authorities can do to avert instances like this in the future?
See, we are only talking about one tunnel disaster, and we're talking about 2023. We do not know how this particular project, which is 889-kilometer long highway project, and accompanying to this, parallel to this, is another huge tunneling and blasting project called the Char Dham Rail project. And these two projects singularly, in the sense together, have actually created a havoc. You've done several shows on Joshimath sinking. There are cities that are sinking. There are cracks all over Himalayas. The entire water management of the Himalayas is in danger because of these two projects. So, it's already too late, but perhaps the only way is to really look at, can a few things be redesigned? By the way, I think your viewers and the country needs to know that it is not about environmental impact assessment not conducted properly. The thing is, what the government did is that they broke this 900-kilometer project into 53 small projects so that it doesn't qualify for an EIA. EIA is for any road project that is more than 100 kilometers. So very notoriously what the government did is slice this 900-kilometer project into 53 small projects. And by the way, you've spoken several times about this escape tunnel. An escape tunnel is part of the entire disaster relief or disaster management plan. And disaster management plan also becomes active as it's also part of an environment impact assessment. So when you actually find a shortcut, don't want to do an environment impact assessment at all, there was no impact assessment at all that was done, then you not only risk the Himalayas, the environment, but you also risk the people, and not just the people in terms of travelers, but the locals. By the way, last 3 years, we've seen that in this monsoon, there was a landslide each day, and there were hundreds of people who actually lost their lives because of the landslide that has happened because of this project. So when there are so many red flags, in your own arrogance and in your own way to really achieve this project, why should we continue with the project when it's constantly telling us that 56,000 trees have been cut, the rivers are getting choked, the tunnels are collapsing, people and their lives are at risk, and our river bodies are at risk. Why should we continue with this project? And I think responsibility also lies in the Supreme Court, which actually was presented this project as a national security project, while it was a pilgrimage project more than a national security project. And look at what is happening. As we want big machinery to be moved, we are blasting the entire Himalayas for a faster rail and a faster highway, then sinking the entire Himalayas.
Mr. Jha, I appreciate you making those candid observations, but I'd like to bring in Brigadier Datta also into that discussion. Brigadier Datta, is it also doomsday in the sense that is this project really so bad or completely unfeasible, as certain experts like Mr. Vimlendu Jha point out? More importantly, across the world, whenever tricky projects of these nature have been executed, there have always been environmental concerns that need to be taken off. And the perfect, intricate balance that we talk about in a utopian world or theoretically perhaps is not possible to be struck ideally, 100%. But to some extent, do you think that there is a need to rethink about similar projects, at least on this stretch? And I believe there's a thinking even within the government that perhaps for contingencies like these, for situations like these, they need to be better prepared.
Yeah, I agree with you because you see what, as I already said, that development is a part of progress which the nation has to, and since we are doing well in the world spectrum, we need to develop our infrastructure both from the state point of view and from the national security point of view. But what Vimlendu has got a point here. The way the procedures have been circumvented, the way procedures have been short-circuited, the way this project has been split, that raises hackles. Now, if you want to avoid environment impact assessment (EIA), and if you are splitting it, I mean it almost amounts like a criminal case. I mean it should be seen from that spectrum.
Okay.
So what is required is firstly, you see whether the domain expert views have been taken into consideration or they have been just glossed over. Why this project was split into various this thing, so that it can fit into somebody's financial powers, or you can avoid certain rules and regulations. So all those questions, there should be a inquiry, and I'm sure there will be, and that should bring out, and the nation should be told that yes, these are the shortcuts which we have taken.
And sir, more
this is
importantly,
how,
we need to create infrastructure, but with the right kind of balance. For now, the focus on the rescue operation. After 17 days, these 41 workers who are trapped there will come out after a mammoth effort. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and bringing your expertise. Of course, we'll take this conversation forward. But for the next few hours, our focus here on CNN News 18 to that minute when that first worker will be pulled out of that Silkyara tunnel. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Plain Speak. Thank you so much for watching.
Viewers, after 400 hours, there's finally light at the end of the tunnel. Where machines failed, intrepid rat hole diggers, a posse of lithe men, are now burrowing through the debris and are just a couple of meters away from extracting the 41 trapped workers in Uttarkashi. The Silkyara tunnel was part of the Char Dham project, and part of it caved in 17 days ago, entrapping the workers over the last few days.